Hello from Our Lady of Bethesda. We're continuing our series of Lenten reflections. In this third week of Lent, I wanted to focus a little bit on the idea of liturgy and worship. In this past Sunday's Gospel, we read about what we call the cleansing of the temple. We know that Jesus went to the temple area and he found there people who were selling sheep and oxen and doves. And Jesus went in and made a whip out of cords, and he drove everyone out of the temple area. A very dramatic action, and really the heart and reason of why Jesus did that was to clear away any obstacles of what it is to truly worship God. So anything that stands in the way of truly worshiping his heavenly Father, he wanted to get rid of. And that was really the deepest meaning of the cleansing of the temple. There's so much more that could be said, but one of the things about worship is that it's really not something that the human being creates in and of himself. True worship comes from God, and God has to instruct us how to worship him correctly. If we go back to the book of Exodus, we know that when Moses first approached Pharaoh, the very first thing he asked him, he said, "Let my people go into the desert so that we can worship." And there were different, of course, dialogues between Pharaoh and Moses. And one of the things that Moses said to Pharaoh was, we need to take the animals too, because we're really not sure how God will ask us to worship him in the desert. So we need to take all of the animals with us too. Well, all of these things about the right way to worship God in the Old Testament were really just a prefiguring of the real way to worship Christ in the Eucharist. And what a gift we have in the Catholic Mass, that we know that in the Catholic Mass, it's the true way to worship God. How do we know this? Well, of course, it stands, or we know this because of our faith in Jesus Christ as God. Yes, he was God and man, but at the Last Supper, he took the bread and he said, "This is my body," and then took the wine and said, "This is my blood," and then he said, "Do this in memory of me." So when Jesus, who is God, said this, he was giving us a pattern for the true worship. It's no longer the sacrifices of animals that pleases God. It was the sacrifice of his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, who sacrificed himself on the cross on Good Friday. And the Mass, the Catholic Mass, is the true continuation, or we should say better, the making present again of that one sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. So when we read about worship and we and kind of contemplate what Jesus did in the cleansing of the temple and what he did at the Last Supper, we understand, wow, now I understand that Jesus was preparing us for the true worship, which is worshiping him, especially in his death and resurrection, for our salvation. That's what makes Sunday Mass and all the celebrations so vitally important for our spiritual lives. It's a command from the living God in Jesus Christ to do this in memory of him. So why don't you take a few moments, especially before this upcoming Sunday, to prepare for Mass, to maybe read the readings, get there a little bit early, spend some silent time reflecting on what you're about to do, to really participate actively in what is happening at the Catholic Mass. So as we continue this third week of Lent, why don't you give thanks to God for this great gift of the Catholic Mass, because in the Mass we know how to worship God as he truly wants to be worshipped. May God bless you.